Okay, so we're recording, and then of course I'll edit whatever needs to be edited. So,
Oh, okay. Yeah, I forgot you did that. Okay, great.
yeah, so welcome. Okay, let me start. So, welcome to IDLO Movement. I don't look like what I've been through. I am founder and host of this movement, Yvonne Campbell, and I have with me a very special guest, my niece Jasmine, and we're just going to kind of recap over on a video that I shared previously, and I shared some things about my childhood, which I believe some of the things were new information to you, but yet also um, confirming information because some things I think are evident or obvious, but still just to hear more of my story, things that I hadn't quite shared, certainly hadn't shared on a public platform. But with groups, I have shared my testimony, but just not to this degree. So, welcome on, and thank you so much for your time.
Of course.
How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Getting ready for this snow, but
I know. I
it feels
know.
through the window. So
What'd you say?
the wind chill is actually coming through the window.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So you're on the East Coast. I'm in the South, and we're having the same issue here. Yeah, we're just it's already started here, but by midnight, I think is when it'll really
Pick up.
that's. hmm
Yeah.
But yeah, so thank you again for joining. And just real quickly, a few of the things I shared was just, your mom and I being sisters, we grew up in the same home and everything. And just some of the things that we dealt with on the regular was, typically abusive behavior from our mother. Um, Dad was avoidant, very much avoidant. He didn't address the things that were going on. And he didn't, sit my mom down or sit us down as children and say, hey, we've got to work through this. That never happened.
Hmm.
And so, although mom was a heavy alcoholic and she was very, angry, she would act out in rage, break and destroy our things in the home, call us names and just so many things that were going on. But it's taken a lot of time for me to really come to the place of saying, look at dad and where he lacked accountability as well.
Hmm.
Because for so long, I placed blame on mom for her destructive behavior. And that is, the things I share, it's true. These are things that she did. Um, and it was very damaging. However, it wasn't until I received Christ in my life when I really realized that I was putting him on a pedestal. And your mom has said to me on a number of occasions, and I've agreed each time, that he was a hero for us. And so we looked at him. I got to say, for me, I looked at him as, he was like a savior because he maintained stability. We had a home. He made sure that the utilities and everything were working, and there was food, and, we had a vehicle, and, he worked a lot. And so when I received Christ in my life is when really things began to change in my life. And at that point, the Lord started to convict me, like it's as if I'm almost worshiping him. It's like I'm putting him on a pedestal, like an idol. And at that point, I was kind of shocked at first because I didn't know. And I was like, So a little bit of time went by, and I was like, Lord, I should have forgiven me because, yeah, I shouldn't be putting my father on a pedestal. So then I I wanted to tell you this really quickly because I know we have things we need to share. I was just on the phone with one of my teacher friends in California, in Sacramento, and we met because, we worked in the same classroom together. She was my assistant, and we became friends. And we just talked a couple weeks ago, and she said something to me that no one has ever said to me ever. And she said, but Yvonne, your dad, that was his wife. He should have sat her down and said, honey, let's talk about it. I see that some things are troubling you. And that's where, when I started this conversation, I said, he never did that. No one ever said that to me before. And when she said it, I was like, oh my God, you're right. And I'm going to tell you, since our conversation, I got this flashback, Jazz. And IDLL is about transparency and having real conversations. I'm not trying to be pretentious or anything. That's the whole point of this. Since my teacher friend said that to me, I had a flashback. And I literally saw myself. You remember where we lived in Rancho? My mom was driving our car, and Papa was in the front seat, passenger, and I was in the back. I'm going to say I was probably about 10, 11. And she was driving through Rancho full speed. And it was by the grace of God that she didn't kill nobody. She didn't hit a parked or moving vehicle. She didn't kill us. And Papa said, let me out. Wow. And she's flying. I mean, flying down Meadows and Echo Summit. I mean, she's just from the park, from that park right there where we lived, Meadows Park. She was flying down, that's Meadows Drive and going towards Safeway and stuff. Those, like in a loop, down, back and forth, the long streets, like that, going toward Gay and Mo Street, and to Gay. And so she didn't let him out immediately, but she pulled over and she let him out. And I was like, wow, he let me stay in the back seat with her as she continued flying up and down those streets. And it just hit me. I was like, wow, nobody ever said that to me until my teacher friend said it. And so what I could say to you today, I mean, I have not to this day experienced being protected by a man. And the first man that should be the protector would be the father. He let me stay in the back seat of that car as she kept full speed, shoo, back and forth, up and down until she got tired. And it's like facing the reality of what really, you know what I mean? Facing the reality, like this is really what happened. I just know that one memory always stuck with me that made me know that he didn't protect me. And it was just this one time that I never, like, it just would come to me over the years. Is that one day we were in the living room and my mom was so mad, or your grandma, she was so mad. And she was just slapping me around the room, yelling. And so I heard him coming from the bathroom because the hallway is right there. And I said to myself, if I yell louder, he'll come and he'll stop her from doing this to me. You remember how Papa used to scoot? He scooped from the bathroom right there into the bedroom and shut the door. And I never forgot that moment. I said, you're letting this woman just So that's the kind of stuff that, and I'm gonna make another video where I just talk about him because I haven't talked about him.
Mm.
He was always like your mom said, he was hero to us because if we didn't have him, I surely would have been in foster care. And police offered for me. They asked me, do you, one day they had to come to the house and they asked me, do you want to go to foster care? And he said, that's the best I can do. I take you to a foster home for 2 weeks. And I said, no, because I didn't know what would be on the other side of that. I've heard stories of how foster parents are abusive, and I was like, I would rather tough this out than go with strangers, and I don't know what might happen, you know? And the moment the police left, same thing. She was right at it again. As soon as they left, nothing changed. And I wasn't surprised, but it was my choice to decline the offer, you know? And so, wow, I didn't know all that was going to come out, but it just is, to me, it's a healthy way to heal is to
Mhm.
uncover this
Yeah.
is what I went through. And no, it doesn't define my life.
Yep. Yep.
It's just coming face to face with this. And God has healed me from so many things, but I realize even today, years later, of so much intense, like surgery on the inside God has done on me, I realize there's still things that I'm working through all
Yeah.
these years later. And I'll say this real quickly because I know you need to be able to talk as well. But God inspired me to create this platform for people to know that you don't have to look like what you've been through. You don't have to be a product of your environment. But what I would say, as someone who has been through some crazy situations, just broken, just a broken young girl, broken into my childhood, into relationships. Um, it takes healing. Healing requires, um, you have to be you have to be determined to heal, and it takes courage because in the healing process you literally have to go back and revisit things, and that's what just happened to me. As you heard me share, I had to go back and revisit, wow. And so your mind has to go back there, your emotions go back there, and you're like, oh my gosh, that was traumatic for me. But people need to hear, this is what God has impressed upon me, and why I'm doing this is because people need to hear that, you know, these are real situations, and I'm willing to be vulnerable and share to help someone else in
Mhm.
what they're going through. It doesn't matter what you that are listening, doesn't matter what you look like, it doesn't matter what race, it doesn't matter what gender. Trauma is trauma, abuse is abuse, neglect is neglect. It don't matter the color, the background, it don't matter the where you're from geographically, and all that stuff doesn't matter. If you've
Mhm.
been through stuff, that has been is it has impacted your life negatively and is hurting you, is hindering you from moving forward or living, freely and with joy and with gladness, and just, living, according to how God sees you. And his eyes were so precious and beautiful, and our lives are so full of purpose and destiny. Then this is for you. This is why it's for you to be a part and to hear. So, Jasmine, thank you again for coming on. I love you dearly, my girl. I used to be right there, me and your grandma, my mama, who I love. Wow, woman, we were taking care of you until she passed when you were 18 months old. You were with us a lot, her and I. We would have you, I would have you on the city bus and be holding you in the little chest strap, and you hit me right here on my nose bone with a glass baby bottle. It was a 4-ounce bottle. And when you threw it, you was just a baby in your crib. When you threw it, it was like a golf ball. You ever been hit by a golf ball?
Yes.
They hurt. It was, I couldn't move. I was like, I can't get mad at this baby, but my nose feels cracked. But you was my baby everywhere. I wanted you with me all the time. Welcome on, Jazz.
Oh, thank you. And thank you for sharing and being vulnerable. I definitely understand how revisiting past trauma, you have to face that trauma in order to heal it, but it's going to definitely bring up all sorts of things, whether it be sadness, happiness, anger, guilt, all of those things. But you have to take it by the horns, and you have to process it. That's the only way. Um, and hearing these things, and I'm sure my mom has just as many, horror stories. It actually changes. It actually changes um, things for me, and like it kind of makes me want to forgive her a little more than what I already have, because she never shared, these things, maybe in little detail, but not in great detail. And so in my mind, I don't know, why she parents the way that she parents, or why she drinks the way she drinks, or why I experience so much neglect. And it was literally just generational alcoholism, and generational trauma, and generational verbal abuse. Um, but I didn't know that, I just dealt with it. And I think there had been times where my mom would make comments like, well, like comparing my childhood to hers, or comparing my siblings' childhood to hers, or her parenting style. And we didn't know that she may have experienced worse, but in her eyes, she was doing far better than what grandma was, right? But to a child, you don't see that and you don't know that. But to see the different routes that you and her both took, I would always say there's no excuse for for my childhood to have to be this way, because I would always look at the two of you and just see like, okay, if it was that bad, well, Auntie Vaughn, she didn't let that, define her or impact the way that she's living. And this was, I don't even remember how old I was. I was maybe an early teenager when I would start having those thoughts. But she never dealt with her trauma. She never, you know, she never had therapy. She never sought help. So she's been dealing with all of these things that you guys have experienced um pretty much her whole entire life. And some things you just don't get over when you don't face them. And my mom doesn't talk about these things. She internalizes everything. The anger, the guilt, what what somebody may have done to her 20 years ago, she still harbors and holds on to. But I think it's just because she doesn't want to she don't want to have to face it. And that's kind of common. But it definitely impacted me in how I grew up. It really did. Um, yeah.
Yeah. That's good to know. So that's interesting. You said that she didn't really talk about it, and I didn't either. I mean, I just would have guessed that she talked to you about a lot of things that happened growing up, but I didn't talk to my children about my experiences because I always had it in mind like, okay, when they're older, I will, but I don't want their childhood to be, um, affected. Like, I don't want them to think that, oh, I should expect this because this is how my grandma was. So I didn't want that in their minds. So I never said, hey, your grandma was an alcoholic and she used to beat us. You know what I mean? I just never, but I just always knew. And then my mom, grandma, she was not alive when my children were born. So they never had a chance to see their grandma. So I didn't want that to be the introduction. Like, and then I didn't have so many good things to share. So I just didn't really talk about, I couldn't be like, oh yeah, me and my mom loved to go to walk at the park and have ice cream. We didn't do anything. Life was just her at home, depressed. I mean, she didn't even eat. She didn't cook. She didn't function like the average person.
Yeah.
So I didn't share any of that with my kids, but it was always in my heart. When they were little, I remember just like when they become of age, I want to tell my children about the things, because like you said, you didn't know about your mom. There's things my kids don't know, and I'm just opening up about these things through IDLO movement. It's like you have to be ready to talk. I don't
Yeah.
know if you've ever experienced that, but for me, it's like I hear people say that, oh, why did they speak up about being assaulted publicly? Why do people make their public claim that they were SA'd? And it's been 20 years. And although that's not my experience, I can relate in the sense that I'm now sharing about my trauma that I wasn't ready to talk about. And I think that it's important to have a sensitivity to people because, for one, people are different. Not everybody, is very expressive in that way. Like they just, some people are just they're overly expressive, and you just want to say, hey, calm down. They have no filter. They just say, I'm going to give you whatever's on my mind. And they have they don't, they just, that's good. I love straightforward, but they need to kind of calm it down just a little bit. Uh-huh. But but then there's some who, like myself, um, just didn't really see fit to share at that time. And I'm gonna mention this too, and I mentioned it in the other video, is that, you know, um, I wasn't allowed to express. So that was a behavior, that I was taught as a child, is that, anytime I would ask questions, I love, to this day, I love learning. And I'm very, one of my strengths is high attention to detail. And so I love breaking something apart. I want to understand the ins and outs. I want to know, how do you do it, and why, and how do you, make changes, da 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 da. I want to know everything, and like your business. You need to know I'm like that. When I'm learning, I want to know everything. So if I said, for example, if my mom said, don't touch a stove, as a child, I would likely say, how come? Or what will happen? And it wasn't out of defiance, it was my curiosity, right? Don't you question me. You stay in a child's place. What I say goes. And don't you talk back. It was looked at as though I was defying authority. I
Mhm.
wasn't saying it with a bad attitude. I was asking because I was searching for information.
Mhm.
And so then when it was the discipline of getting whooped, if I cried, then I would get whooped again. So it was like, I'm not allowed to cry. And then once I suppressed the cry to the point now I'm shaking, and I'm I don't know if you ever did that. I would do that, trying to so hard to hold it in, and that wasn't allowed either. So it was just a constant thing of just be quiet, just be existent. And so then as I got older, and people would do things and I didn't like it, There were times when I spoke up, but there were many times where I would suppress it. And so that has become a bad habit, an unhealthy habit. And it can even be a cowardice behavior because, you're not, like I said about my dad, your grandpa earlier, is that it's like you're not dealing with conflict. You're not asserting situations because you're avoiding. And it makes sense to me why, as I look back, why I was avoiding, because that's what I was modeled through my father, and that's what I was taught specifically through my mother.
Mm-hmm.
You see, it's interesting when you get to the root of things and you start understanding,
Yeah.
wow, and then it's not, none of this, and I say this to every listener, none of this is to blame and point fingers. It's to help grow past it.
Mm-hmm.
Is to heal and to become a better person, because at the end of the day, we have a responsibility to look at ourselves. Okay, what do I do? This is the hand I was dealt, but what do I do? So for me today, I can't say, oh, well, you know, I'm going to be avoiding because, that's all I know. No, 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 no. I heard you mention earlier, you have to grow up and become accountable and make the change. Every individual has that responsibility. And
Yep.
so it's about, this is what I went through, but now what do I do with it? That's what I'm trying to say. The point of IDLL is not to share, it's not about a pity party. It's not about, oh, I'm a victim. No, no, no. It's, this is what happened. I'm sharing, I'm being transparent. But now, what work do I need to do going forward? Once I've identified the root cause, what is my current behavior or tendencies, triggers, whatever. And now what do I do?
Yep. Yeah. Most people can't do that. Or most people don't do that, I should say. I mean, most of the time, these these are long periods of generational, whatever you want to call it, whatever one's family is dealing with. I think that, for example, it's so funny because I've had years of therapy. I think I started when Alea was maybe 6 or 7, um, because I wasn't able to forgive my mom for my upbringing, and we didn't really talk in depth about this stuff. So when I would explain to the therapist, things that I went through, things that I experienced, my earliest memory of, um, being unhoused, being homeless, being out in the cold, walking in the cold, my all the way up until when I had my daughter, they would all I had seen 2 different therapists now, and I would tell them how, um I was avoidant and how I wasn't affectionate, and how that translated into my personal relationships, into my relationship with my then, 6, 7 year old. And they will say, well, that's how you've kind of, that's how you coped. You avoided conflict, you avoided confrontation. Um, and now it's translating into your adult life. And I couldn't put a finger on it. I was like, I don't know what's wrong with me. And my mom would always say, I always show love to my kids. I always tell you guys that I love you guys. But I'm like, you okay, but that's not, that wasn't I didn't perceive it like that, at all. And so it's funny that you say that, because I'm still like that to this day. Very avoidant, very, very like, it, it's like this innate thing that I can't just can't shake no matter how hard I try. Um, but then, me having kids, and then deciding I'm not going to raise my kids in any of the conditions or circumstances that I myself and my siblings were raised in, because I don't want that. Somebody has to be the generational curse breaker, because I could continue on and, just do the same things, live the same ways, have the same views and opinions, on life. And I, there was no way.
Mhm.
There was no way.
Mhm.
So you absolutely don't have to look like what you've been through. People have no idea when they see me to this day. Not an inkling. Not even a little
Yeah.
bit. Yeah.
Yeah.
No. No. And I don't talk about it. I think I think, you know, I would be much more aspirational and influential to people, especially being like, I hate the word influencer, but like a content creator for non-traditional moms. But in their eyes, I'm just a non-traditional college student. They don't know just how non-traditional, it really is. I don't talk about, things that I really went through. I don't talk about then I look at my peers, and my peers, they can't relate. They grew up with the white picket fence, the perfect family, the bells and whistles, and I'm like, wow, I'm really standing in a room full of people where statistically I shouldn't be here. Every day
Mm.
I walk hall, I'm like, I there's no way. Yeah, there's no way. So you
Praise
don't have to look like what you've been through, where you
God.
come from. You don't. But
Yeah.
it starts with you though. You have to be the one to be like, this is it. I want
Hmm.
different. If you don't do that, then where does the cycle end?
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. For sure. And I wonder when you were speaking, I was thinking of when you were saying you're avoidant and how like people look at you and they have no idea and you don't really speak on it. Um, how does it show up though? How do the effects of being avoidant show up for you, if you don't mind? Because it may not show up in your appearance. You're a gorgeous girl. You dress
Mhm.
well. You get dolled up, and you are just right. I mean, you know how to. You really, yeah. No, you really. You're very graceful about how you take care of yourself. So that's from the outward, the say image wise, but
Mhm.
how does it show up? Because what's on the inside of us does show up externally. So the avoidant part of you that's still there, how does that show up outwardly for you in your communication or relationships, or like what does that look like for you?
Yeah, I think in communication maybe, but definitely in relationships, like platonic with friends, and intimate relationships, I always have a wall up. I will never 100%, even 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, maybe 9 years, that wall is probably going to be 50% up. And to me, knowing what I know now, that's a problem. But it's something that I can't seem at this moment seem to shake. I let people in, but I don't let them in too much. It's hard for me to be affectionate to people, with people, including my kids, and I've worked on that in therapy, which is weird because with my relationship with Derek, he was the one person that could actually get that wall down, which was so weird. The only person that could like start nipping away, at that wall, and I felt like he was somebody that I could actually um, show affection to without it seeming like a task, like a job. But even still, with him, communication, I was avoidant. Um, I would avoid conflict and confrontation. Instead of talking about something or addressing it, I would internalize it and just deal with it. Literally, and that's not healthy. That's not healthy at all. But that comes from trying to avoid conflict, confrontation with my mom, with people that we lived with. We would, for example, there was a point where we were living with friends of my mom's, and it would be times where I would always walk on eggshells because my mom was always doing something to piss the other person off, or they were doing something to piss my mom off. And then in my thought, in my head, if my mom and this person get into an argument and get into a fight, we're gonna get kicked out and we're gonna be homeless. So I always avoided, I just always walked on eggshells. And I think that is where a big part of that came from. a huge part of that. So things like that just have made me a very guarded person. Um, I think I look a certain way on the outside, and I can be personable. Don't get me wrong. If I'm in my zone and my, I can be. But outside of that, it's like when I walk out of that room, when I walk out of that conference, when all that's said and done, I just go back to this very introverted type of person, believe it or not.
Mm-hmm.
And people point it out all the time. I had one of the deans at my school pointed it out a couple weeks ago. Actually, he made a comment about it. Like, people think that I'm stuck up or I'm bougie or I'm mean because I'm avoidant. Yeah. And I'm like, oh no, that's not what it is. I'm just special. I'm just special. I'm dealing with my own things up there. I swear it's not you guys. I'm trying to keep my bearings, okay? Like, and so I'm like, oh, and so it dawned on me again. I'm like, oh my gosh, people really do pick up on it. They do pick up on it. They do. But I don't know. Maybe it's a personality trait. I don't know. But that is something that I'm still working on to this day. For sure.
But the dean noticed it and said something, because I would imagine most people don't call you on that.
Mm-hmm.
Do they? Is it common?
Not
Or
well, I'll say it can be common. It depends on like the environment. Like at this point, me and him have been I've been at the school a year and a half now. So he finally just said this, but it's funny because he's the one who interviewed me and gave me the recommendation on admission. So and now that we know each other, he's like, those people, they think you're stuck up and bougie. And I was like, okay, I'm bougie, yeah, but stuck up, no. But other people do call me out on it. Other people call me out on it. I have friends, a couple of friends that I've met recently at school that are here with me in Boston, and they make comments like, I have this one friend that I've gotten really close with. It's really just like me and her, and she's very affectionate, very lovey, very touchy, and she knows that I'm not. So when she comes over to like study or like we'll spend weekends together, she'll come help me with the kids. She'll go to leave, and then like she'll go to hug me or like do something very touchy feely, and she'll be like, "Oh my gosh, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. Like I know you're not." Like, and I'm like, "It is not that bad. Like you guys are dragging it. It's not that bad. It's not that obvious, right?" But people sometimes pick up on it. They do.
I didn't even know that about you, that you're not affectionate. I don't recall. Like I can't think of, I'm not, I'm a little surprised. Okay.
Not
Yeah.
overly. Not, I would say not overly. Like what comes natural
Mhm.
most doesn't come
Mhm.
natural.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think so. But
Yeah.
I am learning to kind of like be more direct instead of having that avoidant behavior though. Like I've done better, but you know, it definitely comes from things like that, you know, that scenario that I told you, because I couldn't think of why else I would be like that besides it just being my personality. But on two different occasions, two different therapists, they were like, no, this stems from childhood trauma that you haven't addressed, that you haven't faced face on. And until you do, it's going to be lingering back there.
See
And I
that?
was,
Oh,
wow, okay, okay.
wow.
And through that, I was able to not be so angry with my mom, but then also she never went into great detail. She told me some stories now, but like they were like little snapshots, and I just couldn't understand why she parented the way she did, or why she drank so much, or why a lot of the things I couldn't understand why. I'm like, were you raised like this? I always say that. Were you raised like this? But she never,
She didn't tell you that grandma was an alcoholic?
She did. She told me that she was an alcoholic, and she told me that she used to get really violent. She did say that, but there
Yeah.
would be one or two instances. Like she told me about the time when my mom was holding me and grandma threw the phone at her and it hit her in the middle of the forehead. Like she told me that, but like,
Ooh. Ouch. Ouch. I don't recall that.
yeah,
Ouch.
she said something about it was a telephone that was a high heel and it hit her in the forehead and she just felt blood trickling and she still has a scar. And she would tell me about
Really?
stuff. Yeah, she would tell me about stuff like that, but I'm like, okay, yeah, I didn't know that grandma didn't cook. I didn't know that you guys didn't eat. It's
Mhm.
funny that you pointed you made it that you brought the the point about Papa being like avoidant because when Jean Ann moved into the house and Mom and Jean Ann used to get into it, she would always say, your grandpa was always like this. He was like this with my mom. Very, just avoidant. He would stay out of it. And now it's making sense. And I would never forget because he let that lady cause. Yeah.
Wait, Jean Ann said that Papa let my mom do the same thing? Oh,
No,
he
my
told her?
no, my mom would say stuff like that when, she would be like, when we would be talking about like Jean Ann wanting to put us out and Papa just sitting back and being okay with it. And mom,
Oh, yeah.
you know and she would say things like that. I mean, I didn't know, but she would be like, yeah, this is just how he was. He would be like that with my mom
Yes.
and yada, yada.
Yep.
And so now with what it makes sense, but again, I just wasn't privy to the extent of how you guys were brought up, and that really took a toll on her. And unfortunately, she couldn't shake it. So my childhood was what my childhood was, and it just it it, it is it's still impacting her to this day, but um what was she supposed to do?
Well, I mean, I remember, I can give you a couple of examples. I'll give you one. One of your mom's friends, this was in the teenage years, one of her friends came to the house and we had a screen door on the front door, right? So she was knocking on the screen door. So the front door was open, but I could see the friend knocking on the screen door, and my mom was in the kitchen.
Mm-hmm.
So she couldn't see because she was like behind, where the counters and the sink, the cabinets, and she was on that side of the wall. I thought it was funny. It's not funny, but I thought it was funny. Maybe it was just a sense of relief for me from all the craziness. When I tell you, she thought your mom's friend was your mom. When I tell you she heard, she heard the door, and in a split second, she had canned goods in both hands. I'm standing like this toward the hallway, diagonal of the screen door, but I could see the girl at the door. She comes around the corner so fast with canned foods and started humming them at the girl at the door.
Gosh. Oh my gosh.
I mean, bang, bang, and the girl face, she was startled. Yeah, she didn't know what was going on. She just
Oh
wanted to
my
know.
god.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I, and in that moment, I was like scared for the girl. I felt bad for the girl because I'm looking at her face. It totally freaked her out.
What is
Then,
going
I don't know. I just after a minute or two, I just laughed. I was like, "This woman, she's something else." Like, bruh, that's not even your child.
that's not that's not normal behavior.
You're assaulting a innocent somebody else's kid. Oh, but yeah, 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 a lot, just
Yeah.
a lot. Yeah.
And then
So
it's you also touched on something where you said like grandma didn't do a lot with you guys, right? Like, oh, we had this tradition of going to the park on whatever. you know I can't say the same. I can say the same, that I don't have things that me and my mom did together. I can't tell you a time at my age right now where me and my mom spent Thanksgiving together or Christmas together or
Really?
Easter being a thing. I can't. I don't know if you guys didn't have birthday parties. I never had a birthday party. I think I had one. I think when my mom and my dad were still married, I may have had some birthday parties. And I
Mhm.
remember at my age, I think I was turning 5 or 6, and I had a party at Lawanda's house. And I had on a green bathing suit. I'll never forget because there's pictures somewhere. But that's my last, recollection of a party. So for me to grow up to not have any birthday parties. When Christmas came around, I may have experienced one or two or three gifts, but it wasn't a real Christmas. These are things that affected me because I grew up and there are people who had, in my eyes, normal lives. Like
Yeah.
there are some things to this day that I can't say I experienced, and I've accepted that that's my story, but
Mhm.
that's why it's so important for me for my kids to have these grandiose birthday parties. We're going to Disneyland every year. They know, we're going to celebrate Christmas because I'm healing through being a mother to them.
Yeah,
Literally,
that's good. Mhm.
There's still some areas where I fall short, like not being as affectionate, but I'm I'm aware of those things and I'm not just brushing them off like they're not an issue or a problem, so to speak. Um, but yeah, she really took some of those things that you guys went through and she just couldn't shake them.
Yeah. A lot of people don't. I mean, from stories I've heard over the years, a lot of people don't recover from different trauma experiences or traumatic experiences. But yeah, to comment on what you just said, we didn't have any birthday parties. My 16th birthday, I remember standing in the front yard, right in the front of our house, the top of the driveway. And um, I remember I had a new outfit and I put the outfit on and I was like, yeah, this is going to be, in my mind, I was like, this is going to be my first birthday. I'm 16. It's going to be sweet 16. It's going to be a nice birthday. Well, again, no birthday. And my mom cussed me out.
Mm.
It was horrible. My feelings were so hurt. I was just like, it was like if I felt like this, she brought me
Mhm.
down to like, that's how I felt when she was done cussing me out. I was just like, that's what I got for my birthday. And I was very disappointing. So yeah, we didn't have birthdays. Christmas, I remember we had a couple Christmases when we were young. Um, and then that stopped. We probably had a few like gifts under the tree. Um, we had a few Christmases and then nothing after that. What else? Cooking. I remember one time my mom prepared food, and I remember one of the dishes was cornbread. I don't remember what the other ones were, but there were a few things on the table. And I was probably about 5 or 6. And at that point, I was so excited. I was like, oh, this is going to be a normal thing. We're going to start having food. We're going to start eating together as a family. This is huge for somebody who's never had it before. It's nothing. If you're used to that, then that's a normal that, for one, food is even prepared for you as a child, and for two, to have it served on the table and for you to be
Yeah.
able to sit down. That's a luxury for some people, but we didn't have it. So I was like, oh, this is going to be a change of events. I was so excited. And the next day I show up and I'm like, and that was nothing. And that was just the one time I can recall. And even when I mentioned that to your mom in our adult years, and she made a comment and she said, you don't give up on your kids when they're only in the third grade. And it kind of hit my heart. I was like, dang. And I said, you're right.
Mm.
Yeah, that was the comment she made. So, yeah, it's good for you and I to address these things. It takes courage, determination, um, staring that giant in the face, like facing that giant head on, rather. It's like, no, you're not going to defeat me. I'm defeating you. And you're not going to control and dominate my life and
Yes.
my children and my grandchildren. Because, like we said, it just keeps carrying on.
Mhm.
And that's certainly not the life that God has for us, certainly not. So this is good. Very healthy conversation. We have our own therapy session, huh?
Yeah, exactly. I don't have to pay like $80 an hour for it. $80 an hour
Yeah.
just for you to tell me. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. I didn't even know some of the things you shared. Like some of the things you shared tonight is like new to me. I didn't really know because I remember when I left the Bay and I moved to SAC. I didn't see as much, but I just knew
Mhm.
that you and Papa had connected in that way and stuff. And so I would see you like that. But I didn't really know. He didn't tell me, like, oh, this is going on. Like I didn't really know. You know what I mean? I just knew that the help was needed and it, it worked out in that way
Yeah,
between you and him. That's
yeah,
what I know, but I didn't know the
yeah,
details. Hmm.
yeah. Which is
Good.
crazy because I always funny that he kind of wasn't that affectionate either, but then he was with me. It's really like I, the only time I was the only time I could really ever get more than a few words or get this is actually really funny is when I was in trouble. Like when I was about to get scolded for not going to school, or one time I don't know what happened. Nikki's Jean Ann's daughter. She was like a teenager, so I had to have been about like maybe 8 or 9. And we were just catty fighting. And I remember sitting on the edge of the couch right by the front door. And she didn't want me sitting on the arm of the couch. So she kept going in there going, Papa, Jazz is sitting on the arm of the couch after you told her to move. Papa, Jazz is sitting on the arm of the couch. And he picked up the fly swatter and he grabbed my arm. And I looked at him and I was
I remember that.
like you don't get too much, I was like, oh. And to me it was like, but other than that, wake up, good morning. He just was a man of few words, but I also did have that connection with him. I also did have that emotional like attachment with him. It's actually like, yeah, yeah. But also at the same time, it was like he didn't talk much, but I knew that he was gonna be there for me no matter what. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
oh, wow.
I knew that much.
Wow.
uh,
It's interesting because that's how I describe when I talk about Papa. I describe him the same way. I say he was a man of few words, but I knew what was on his mind I knew it was on his heart by his face. Were you able to
yep.
tell? His face told me, you're playing too much. You better settle down. Like
Exactly. He was
he
just
didn't,
not. Mhm.
or remember this? Mm-hmm.
Oh, when
Yeah. Mhm. You start rocking. Mm-hmm. That means you in trouble. When he start that, mm-hmm, that means you keep on talking. You're gonna get hit with a fly swatter with no power. Oh, he probably thought he was
oh.
really whooping you too, huh?
It really did. I was like, I don't know if I should act like this hurts or what. Like, but uh,
Oh. Or on the flip side, it could have been him trying to show Nikki that he's standing his ground on the rules of the house, but yet he was showing you that know you my girl. I ain't gonna do nothing
Yeah,
to you.
yeah,
That might have
that's
been what
exactly
he was
that.
really saying.
He was trying to keep everybody happy because it was a lot of estrogen in the house at that time. It was a lot going on. I mean, it was a lot. It was a lot. Oh man, that was so funny. I was like, oh wow, okay, you know. Um, but yeah, man of very few words, but I did have. I'm glad I had a relationship with him. That was the first person that I ever experienced loss with, and that was really hard for me. Yeah, that was like, wow, okay, this is what, I almost felt like I lost a parent. Well, I remember that day like it was yesterday, literally that week. Um, but all these things you store in the back of your mind, and they really do shape who you are today. Um, and I know I really want to do some more like healing. I really want to do some deeper inner healing because I want to just live life like you said, how it's meant to be lived and not be like harpering on um, old things or um, traumas that are so deep back there and buried that you're not even aware that they are shaping who you are today. Those are the scary ones.
Yeah.
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 So, yeah, it's good to talk about these things, but also just, like you said, inspire people to change the trajectory if that's what they, aspire to do. You don't have to, you know, feel like I'm not good enough or I can't do this or be embarrassed, you know. Um, the students in my class, all their parents are doctors, their grandfathers are doctors, they're all business owners, and I'm just like, does that mean that I'm not, that I shouldn't be here? So that those type of things will stop people from doing the things that they want to do or changing the trajectory.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
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 And even with those people, and it's a blessing that you broke past that place of, like a limitation generationally, a
Mm-hmm.
limitation that was there. Um, but even those people, they have some stuff that they're just not, it's just not been exposed. Everybody has something. I get what you're saying 100%. Trust me.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
just saying on a side note, they have something. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and that's a whole nother topic. They have something, but you
Yeah.
you are you're in rooms now that ordinarily you wouldn't be qualified for, you wouldn't be suitable for,
Mm-hmm.
you wouldn't even belong in. But like you said, by the grace of God, you are where you are and you are making it happen, Miss Dr. Jasmine. Yes, upcoming doctor. You're almost there. When do you graduate?
Almost 20. I have 2.5 more years.
Okay, see?
2.5 more
So
years.
awesome. I'm so proud of you.
Thank
I
you.
thank you. Yeah, of course. Thank you. And I would love to do this again. I mean,
This is
would you
help
be
he
willing?
this is definitely healing, and it helps me learn more too because me and my mom's relationship is still, now that I'm even older, I'm like, wow, now I can start, just not being a little bit more understanding,
Yeah.
for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. It helps you to understand, like, give the person a little more grace because now you
Hmm.
understand a little bit more. But yeah,
Yeah.
I
There may be here too.
say again.
That
What's
there may
that?
be jade on here too.
It may what?
I said, and maybe get Jade on here too. That'll be a real knee slapper.
Oh, that would be lovely. Yeah, we can bring more guests in, more than just one. Yeah, we can
Yeah.
totally. If she's willing, I did share the video with her and
Hmm.
I confirmed that she got it. She said she did get it. So
Yeah.
she didn't reply on it, but she did say she got it.
Yeah.
Because I wanted her to have some more insight as well.
Yeah, it'll probably help her. I mean, again, I'm just, I think what I'm learning right now is maybe everything that I've gone through, whether it be childhood trauma, teenage, things I went through when I was a young adult, being an adult and thinking that, oh, finally there's some light in my life, having Derek, losing Derek, all of these things, this has to be for a greater story, for a greater purpose, because there's no way that it's just, I mean, I don't want to say why me, but I want to be able to use this and, show somebody else that may be feeling really low or just feeling like I have the worst luck in the world, or why should I do it? That you can. It's very motivating to find people who have been through similar things as you,
Mhm.
whether they're strangers or not. It may save someone life.
Yeah, amen.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I agree. But let's do it again. And
Okay.
yeah, let's definitely do it again. And we can, we'll just, today we freestyle, right? We did not review for this. We just freestyle.
Yeah, that's it. It's
And
right off the dome.
I like it like that. I love unrehearsed. I just like it raw, just talk. I love that. I know, like, you have to have, with television and your episodes, there's format. I'm very much aware and I've done that,
Yeah,
but I love having these moments where you can just let go and just talk, you know?
yeah. So that's more like that's a podcast vibe. Like we have our topic, we have our points, and we're just flowing. Everything's flowing, and we're just talking, and things are just dropping. So, yeah,
Yeah.
let me know. I'm always down
Okay.
to chat.
Okay, perfect. All right. So thank you again. And on the count of three, I don't look like what I've been through. Ready?
Yep.
1, 2, 3.
I don't look
I
like
don't
what I.
look like what I've been through. Hey.
Amen to that.
All right, love. Thank you so much. God bless you. Thank you for your time.
You have a good night.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.